Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. How are you guys doing?
GM, doing good, doing good.
GM, doing well. How are you?
Also doing good, thank you. Very excited for today's talk. So I believe everyone's here. We can start. They're all good. Matt as well.
Hey, everything is great. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for accepting our invite. So let's get started, guys. Allow me to introduce myself first. My name is Carlos. I'm head of marketing at Layer X. Joining me as host today is Georgia, our social media and community manager, and also Mari Walsh, our CEO and co-founder. And last but not least, we have the pleasure to speak today with Matt Murray, developer relations at EigenLayer, and also Nader Dabit, director of developer relations, also at EigenLayer. So very excited for this talk. Before we dive in, because we haven't done this show in a while, and I know that some people new that might not be familiar to what we do. So LayerX is a builder hub, and we have the goal of connecting developers and companies. We currently run two platforms. One is Taikai, which is the hackathon platform powering some of the best Web3 hackathons in the market. We've hosted over 200 hackathons from Web2 to Web3, everything in between. And then we also have the Beeple platform, which is a Web3 task marketplace. So basically anyone can work on tasks and get paid in crypto. So both platforms help developers to work on real world projects or improve their skills, and I would say ultimately to launch their projects. We previously ran a Twitter Spaces series called LayerX Talks, but we decided to take a break, kind of recharge, come back stronger. And this is the first episode of the new version called Probably Something. So we're very excited to have you both as guests from EigenLayer. And yeah, we're super happy for this talk. With that said, I would say it's time to get to know our guests. So Nader and Matt, please tell us a little bit more about yourself and your role at EigenLayer. Feel free.
Matt, you want to jump in first?
Sweet. Yeah. Well, thank you for having us. Very excited to be here. Yeah, I'm Matt, Eigen DevRel engineer at EigenLayer. So, focus on EigenDA. Broadly interested in, I guess the app layer as a whole, and really how like this infrastructure enables like a new set of apps. And like overall, just very excited to see where people's heads go and what's enabled on that front.
Yeah, so I'm Nader Dabit. I'm the director of developer relations at Eigen Labs. I've been working in the blockchain world for about 4 years now. I've worked with the Graph Protocol, Celestia, and Aave, and I've been with Eigen Labs since February. And the way that I would explain EigenLayer is that it allows developers to leverage the economic security of smart contract blockchains outside of the execution environment. So if you think of something like Ethereum, you're able to write a smart contract and inherit the Ethereum security for the dApp. But there's a lot of limitations around different virtual machines, like extreme limitations if you're used to building off-chain software. With EigenLayer, you can build any arbitrary software and make it verifiable. So you're extending the applications outside of, in our case, the EVM, but really in general outside of any virtual machine to build really anything. So it kind of is really exciting in the sense that developers can literally build any application and make it verifiable. And therefore, we're seeing kind of an explosion of use cases and things that people are building.
Nice. That's very interesting. Before we actually go into the EigenLayer, the restaking and scalability topics, I'm actually very curious to hear from you guys. What led you to blockchain and Web3? Was there like a specific moment in your career that you wanted to focus, or did it came along like organically?
Yeah, I guess it caught my eye. I spent a fair bit of time on YouTube and playing like video games, I guess maybe in high school, and I came across Bitcoin, and at the time it was just sort of this like digital money, and people were actually assigning like real value to it, and seemed kind of insane. Didn't really understand it at the time, but revisited it when I was working. We were ideating on like a GDPR compliant solution. It turns out that doesn't really work on a centralized database. So someone pointed me in the direction of checking out like smart contracts, and at the time I was also studying CS, and it's like, wait, this is like, you can build things with this, and it got a really kind of shifted my understanding of maybe like what was possible for you to be able to create. So yeah, found my way, started working in the space, I guess, in like 2021 in my nights and weekends and free time, and now have the opportunity to do it full time, which is amazing blessing, really.
Yeah, for me, I've been like I started buying crypto when I was, I guess, back in 2015, 16, 17. At the time, it was to buy drugs on the internet, I guess. But I ended up having like extra crypto because I would buy extra, because I didn't really know what I was doing all that much. And then I would check my account like 6 months later, and it went up like 10x. So I became interested in the speculation part of it. So I started buying and selling, and that lasted for a couple of years. And then I was working at AWS back in 2020 when I started actually diving into like what you might call Web3, part of crypto, where people are actually building software and applications. And I started watching videos from Juan Benet and also from Yaniv Chow, the founder of The Graph, and got really just kind of pilled on the whole idea of decentralized software infrastructure and building permissionless, unstoppable applications. So from then on, I wanted to work in the space. I decided within a couple of days to quit my job at AWS and take the first job I could find in Web3, and that's exactly what I did.
That's very interesting. If anyone is bullish on on crypto and Web3, you're definitely one of them. And I'm very curious about the role itself of developer relations. I find it fascinating because, of course, as a head of marketing, I don't have that coding or technical background. But it's not an easy role to come by, right? So it requires, I would say, a different variety of skills, from coding experience, of course, technical knowledge, but then there's also the community management, the social media part, and so on. So did you also plan it out in your career to end up in this role, or was it again an opportunity in the market that you saw fit and decided to take it?
Yeah, I'm curious to hear, Matt. I don't think I've ever heard your story about exactly how you got into this, but I'll tell mine after his.
Yeah, let us know, man.
Yeah, so yeah, I guess no, originally I don't think I ever had heard even the term DevRel, honestly, until probably like maybe it was like 2022. I guess at the time, so I'd been working full time at P&G, working on direct to consumer sites, and uh, I'd been like looking for something that like a community where I can, one, continue to learn and like build something new. Essentially, had gotten away from some of the development aspects, and I'd started doing a little bit of work within like sort of the marketing and operations side of like some like community projects within the space. And then I wanted to get back to like actually hands-on keyboard. So just signed up for a hackathon one day. That was Hack Money 2022, and just spent the next like couple of weeks working with a team on that. And then realized I'm like, okay, I want to continue doing this and get better at this a bit more, and continue kind of doing then ETH NYC, and eventually then went to uh, DevCon, so Bogota. Took some time off, and I was like deciding whether or not I'm going to jump in like full time. And after spending like 10 days there, meeting people and having these conversations, this was like clearly the space, the people, the problems that I wanted to work on. And the path to, I guess, like DevRel was one, I think that it's a really unique blend, like you mentioned, of like technology, but also enabling people at scale. And I think that's why I'm broadly interested in technology, or like the internet, is that it's like a huge enabler of like people. And I like the aspect of like education combined with like sort of like actionable, like working with a lot of these new teams or people who want to bring their ideas to life. So for me, it was a combination of like the actual technology is really interesting, but it's oftentimes very inaccessible, and the ability to work with people to like better understand it or make it more accessible, I think, is like very rewarding. And then just working with people at the end of the day, it's like just enabling new teams, new people, and ideas is an incredible combination of, I guess like theoretical, but also like putting it into practice. So kind of a combination of interest and I guess like opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me fell into it like kind of naturally because I was self-taught and fell into it kind of naturally. Ended up starting a company where I was teaching, and when I was at Amazon, I was like teaching. Amazon was one of my clients. I was teaching their engineers mobile app development, and one of the people in my class was running a team at AWS and asked me if I wanted to do DevRel, and that's kind of how I got my first job in DevRel.
So do you think there's more that we could be doing, like maybe outside of the traditional education, to get more people building in this space? So the previous question was related on how we can transition people from Web 2 to Web 3. So I think that this question is also, part of a follow-up question on what we could do to actually get more people in.
Yeah, that's been a very tough thing, I think, in Web3. If you kind of look at the numbers of developers and like the growth that we have seen, there's been a pretty big stagnation on like number of new people net coming in. Like we bring new people in sometimes and then they leave. And if you look at maybe some other emerging industries like AI, the numbers are basically like up and to the right. And yeah, I don't really know the answer to that. I've done everything I can, all the different teams I've worked with, and we've been able to onboard people into our networks and into our products. But in terms of like onboarding net new developers, I brought some folks that were maybe interested in Web 2 when I moved in because I had a decent like following. And I think when you see people that have like a network or an audience and they start dabbling, they share, they get people's interests. But I think it's just still pretty tough to build anything valuable in this space at this moment. Um, so like if I want to build an AI app, I can just tap into Claude's API and I can throw a front end on top of it, and anyone can just start using it, and it's providing a lot of value, right? I still think that in order to build out like a high value product in crypto, it's just extremely hard. Um, and there's a lot of like long tail stuff that you see happening that kind of note or point to that. The fact that you see so many people building just infrastructure as opposed to building like applications is one kind of example of that. And I think that we just need a little bit more time to mature, have better um, developer experience in order to facilitate like more value. So I think like the one of the biggest, well, there's two big barriers there. I think it's identity and it's scalability. And I think we're kind of seeing both of those being solved in real time. And I think when the developer experience is as simple as it is in other parts of um, software, then we're going to see more people on board, but we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And again, I would agree that AI is at the moment very very hot right now, especially for developers, and not just developers, like in general, for people to join. But AI has been around for many years, right? So now it's start to pick momentum, and now it's becoming more mainstream. But it's something that has been built over time, and I think it's the same thing with Web3 and crypto. So we just need to wait out for the market to mature, and also solve these technical challenges that people can face. But do you think that we have a way to fast track that process as an industry? Is there anything we can do to make that happen faster than what we anticipate.
Matt, want to jump in and give a shot at that one?
Yeah, I think like some of the characteristics of like Web2 development is this rapid iteration where you have the infrastructure today to kind of out of a box you can build something in like an afternoon. Like if you want to build a web app today, you already know that you're probably going to host it, let's say like on something like Vercel. You already know what like DB you're going to post to. And the tools, essentially the tooling is like very matured as a whole. I think that that's like one thing that we have seen, especially within like the Ethereum ecosystem, has been just like constantly marching forward in maturity. The other to your question on maybe like what we can do today, I think that there is like sort of inspiration or a lot of like targeted like applications and like demos of there's some things that maybe are like longer term like businesses and then other that are these sort of like um, targeted like solutions. And I wonder how we can sort of promote and make an emphasis on these like smaller applications, like making them more accessible. I think hackathons are a great thing that work in isolation, but I think these sort of like repeated like demos and getting people to like constantly be thinking about how you might be able to apply like crypto broadly um, to these applications. I think the benefits sometimes can be abstract, like crypto as a whole. If I don't know if anyone necessarily wants to just build a crypto application for crypto applications like sake. Instead, a lot of the problems that maybe like a Web2 developer could face can be remedied by some of the characteristics of like related blockchains. Like you have like verifiability, and what that can actually be translated to is reliability of applications. So maybe thinking about and being more targeted in the approach of how we even describe some of the benefits, and rather than trying to like bundle all of the benefits all at once, be very specific in particular like use cases of, you know, what's the sort of the value that you're getting from this. And maybe for some services, like previously, let's say on like software as a service, they're not very reliable. You have a lot of trust that's kind of built in those services. So like reliability is something that we have for like blockchains is like a constant. And maybe we can better communicate, better exemplify like essentially these use cases. So I think it's like inspiration sort of based, being targeted with our even communication of what the benefits are. And then like kind of just rapidly iterating, trying things, seeing if it works, and doing that like shorter sort of feedback loops, I think can compound over time.
One thing I'll just like say that I think is important is that I don't think that most people that are like curious and like trying to learn how to code care all that much about all these different niches. Like in reality, like they don't care if it's cloud, they don't care if it's blockchain, they don't care if it's crypto or AI. They want to just build something that's fun, that they can maybe make money off of, or build a company off of, or build a career off of, all this stuff. So I think kind of like siloing ourselves into, oh, this is blockchain, or this is crypto, or this is AI, um, is maybe limiting a little bit. So like one technique is something that we've thought of is like maybe trying to get involved in other ecosystems, but not necessarily just like say, oh, this is crypto or this is blockchain. Instead, say, you know, these are the types of applications that you can build. Here are like some tutorials and SDKs on how to build out these types of applications. You know, we might point to Polymarket. We might point to like Warpcast. You can build a decentralized social network. You can build, you know, a financial application, or you can build something like a prediction market. I don't know, whatever. But you're not necessarily saying, oh, you're building a blockchain app. You're just saying like this is the app that you're building, and then you know that seems to be probably a smart way of doing it. I don't know. That's just something I've thought of.
Yeah, actually, really interesting and insightful discussion. And also wanted to say hello from my side. I'm Georgia, I'm the Community and Social Media Manager at LayerX. And speaking of excitement developments, restaking is becoming a hot topic in blockchain, right? From your perspective, Nader, how do you think restaking is changing the game for security and decentralization? Why is this such a big deal, and how do you see it evolving beyond Ethereum, right?
Most of the people that we've talked to essentially are wanting to build an EigenLayer because security is just a lot less expensive, a lot cheaper, and a lot easier to come by. And it just makes the process of building their software faster, cheaper, easier. So, I think the whole idea of all like the evolution of software is always about building better abstractions, about building things that reduce the barrier to entry. And with smart contract blockchains, you went from having to build an entire blockchain from scratch, from the ground up, for any differentiating feature that you wanted. So you couldn't take Bitcoin and build an application into Bitcoin. You had to fork Bitcoin or build another blockchain from the ground up and slightly tweak it to add your feature until a smart contract blockchain was invented, which is Ethereum. Then you could just write some arbitrary code and you can inherit the security of Ethereum, but you're very limited within a virtual machine. The next evolution is being able to kind of escape that limitation of that virtual machine to build anything by leveraging that same economic security, which is basically what restaking is. So I think that's why you've seen kind of the explosion of interest, dozens of people building competing restaking platforms, hundreds or even thousands of products being built as ABSs, all within the course of maybe 2 years.
Yeah, thank you, Nader. And I think that restaking not only improves security, but also opens up new earning opportunities for users. And actually, it's really exciting to think about how this could shift the landscape of blockchain. So, follow up on that, do you think it has the potential to redefine staking models across different blockchains?
And what exactly, like in which way? I think I'm curious.
I mean, like, okay, so it's a great opportunity for users, right? Restaking, I think it improves like every aspect of the blockchain. And do you think maybe that it could be used in different blockchains beyond Ethereum, like in every way actually? Like we can capitalize in many ways that we can use it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it just is. I mean, every blockchain that is a layer one is going to have restaking, and you're already kind of seeing that. People are building restaking on blockchains that don't even exist yet. So Monad, Barachain, all these different blockchains, people are building out essentially the EigenLayer of that. There are multiple Bitcoin restaking platforms. People are building restaking platforms on pretty much every chain. So yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah, you definitely are going to see that.
Very interesting. I actually wanted to ask a follow-up question, maybe to Matt, to also hear his opinion on it. But where do you guys see like the whole staking, restaking ecosystem in 5 to 10 years? So in the mid and long term, do you have like a vision for how restaking might evolve from the current state to the future?
Yeah, would love to say yes. I think that the cat's sort of out of the bag, and if someone were to try to predict what the Ethereum ecosystem looked like when it started in a similar way, like all these different like services or related like Ethereum applications that result from restaking, it's really hard to predict. I think that we're going to see probably a variety of like the scales of services, right? So we've kind of been working when Nada brings up like the smart contract development and isolated within like the actual like EVM, let's say execution. With restaking, it has this format that's essentially you have this like off-chain execution, like on-chain sort of settlement, and this like that like opens up the door for I think a sort of app store like model that will in like Web3 development or crypto development today, you're relatively limited in the tooling. You're probably going to be like working, like if you're building, let's say, a DEX or something like that, you're probably just building a set of smart contracts. I say just, but what I mean by that is really you're building with one sort of toolkit, and that's like the set of smart contracts versus potentially like additional information that you might want from off-chain. And like the natural progression is you maybe want an oracle, right? And instead, in I guess web development today, you've got a variety of services that evolve where you have like microservices all the way up to like these full like long running like lambda like services. And I expect that we'll probably see more like crypto applications and honestly just like applications using a variety of these, right? These little like microservice level applications all the way up to these more like macro level like lambda kind of style ones, and essentially viewing it as a app store like integration, but for like developers. So I think that's my like roughly at a high level, and what form that takes and what use cases. I would love to be able to say I could predict it, but that would be predicting the future. And I think I'm just excited for maybe like more like granular targeted services that are solving like very particular pain points like that now can exist that previously would have required, you're just like spinning up a whole nother like blockchain, right? You can't really build a decentralized network to solve some of these services problems. So yeah, kind of view it within that sort of app store like model where you can plug and play.
Nice. I would like to jump into that, to make the parallel on Web2 platforms and these app store kind of scenario, which is, dealing with scaling. So Matt or Nader, what's your vision on how blockchains can scale, and what role does EigenLayer also play in that specific scenario?
Yeah, I mean, like generally you have this sort of like really tough trade-off in blockchains as a whole of like you want increased sort of like you want security, you want decentralization. This sort of like blockchain like trilemma essentially, where you have like security trade-offs with scalability and decentralization. Now we're thinking about essentially scaling means more applications, more users can use this, and how think about that broadly is I think there's like continuing development, let's say particularly on like the Ethereum ecosystem, there's like continuing marching towards scaling, right, while maintaining some of the core primitives that we get from using such a strong base layer, which is like the security and decentralization. And there's some things that require a lot of time to be able to scale, like the L1, right? So Ethereum itself. And how EigenLayer comes into play with this, I guess more so it's this base layer that you can create this sort of like, I like the mental model of permissionless feature add for Ethereum, right? Is that you can innovate at the like infrastructure layer, like kind of above even the L1, where you're not risking some of the underlying core properties of Ethereum. So in that case, you can build services like EigenDA, and I think that's a core thing that is like being thought of is like how do you scale data availability, and like data availability has uses. The immediate one that people think of is rollups, right? So you have this sort of off-chain execution, or rather like you're separating out execution and consensus. So you have L2s having these transactions, then batching them and sending them to the L1. But really, like DA is broadly used for any sort of verifiable service. So if you're having, let's say, like AVSs or other decentralized services where you want some intermediary like compute, you need a really like scalable, decentralized place to be able to put this data so it can be verified, and you don't have to trust. You can verify this sort of buildup of information or execution of a task, let's say. So I guess like EigenDA is like focused on enabling that, right? Is that if you want like a lot of the benefits of crypto, it's kind of like prerequisite for that is data availability. So EigenD is very targeted on the focus of how do you scale like data availability, right? So scaling Ethereum rollups, right? We're thinking about these high throughput use cases, all of these AVSs where you're doing this sort of like off-chain execution and you want them to be verifiable. If you're publishing them to like an S3 bucket, you're kind of beholden to like just the security of that, or the trust essentially within that. So if we want to continue to scale like blockchains generally, it's both on the actual chain level, but as well as thinking about all these services that are interacting with the blockchain itself and like apps themselves. So I think that's like definitely like a very top of mind thing. And I think EigenLayer broadly allows people to innovate today on the scaling roadmap, as well as other related, infrastructure that is needed to be able to support like Ethereum and the crypto broadly.
Nice. Yeah, I would agree with you, and it's a roadmap that everyone is building inside the ecosystem. But I would like to bring another topic that I believe that would make this trilemma a four-lemma, which is the interoperability. So this is often talked about as the key to unlock the next stage of blockchains. And how do you see EigenLayer contributing to that, or playing a role into that? And do you think that we're close to achieving true interoperability, or this is something that is still a very long road that we have ahead?
You're asking if interoperability is something that will happen sooner or later?
Yeah, and if EigenLayer will eventually play a role in that, or not, or do you think it's too far-fetched for what you guys are doing at the moment?
Got it. I mean, to me, it's almost kind of like we're starting to see a lot of teams realize, if I want to build any type of protocol, if I want to build any type of service, this is the fastest, easiest, cheapest way to do it. And therefore, these different, I would say, solutions for cross-chain interoperability, all these different methods of building, we're starting to see more and more of those pop up. And I think when you see more experimentation, faster iteration, faster go-to-market, more funding, then you start seeing, more solutions pop up as a result of that. In this case, on EigenLayer. So I don't know if the best solutions are going to be built there. I would say that I think so, but no one can really predict the future. But I think like when you see rapid innovation, when you see rapid shipping, when you see lowered barriers to entry to experimentation, then you often see just rapid innovation, and people that are able to kind of move quickly and try new things and fail faster are able to ship faster. And because the platform enables that, then I think you will see a lot of successful cross-chain solutions and interoperability solutions. I mean, there's already a lot of really great ones building on EigenLayer, like Hyperlane. So I think you're going to see more of those, more bridges, and I think the more that people experiment, the better, no matter where they're building.
Yeah, maybe to expand on that too. There's like two approaches that you have to interoperability, and that's this sort of standardization or network effects. And the standardization one would be essentially, it kind of requires network effects too. Is take for example, I guess within like Web2, you got like something like OAuth, or even let's say like essentially as this sort of like accepted standard for like access and authorization. And it can be created, but really for interoperability to be realized, it requires network effects. And that means like people to actually use it and adopt it. And the other one that you can also work by is more of this like kind of reducing the barrier to network effects. And what I mean by that is I think like some of these related like what Nader even brought up is like this rapid iteration. There's probably not like a one size fits all solution for interoperability. Like in a great world, it would be awesome if we could all agree that somehow we're building in parallel and everything works together well. And in a centralized system, it's a lot easier to do. But in a centralized system that's more resilient, it's very hard to coordinate on that. So I think realistically, we're going to see some combination of the two where there's standards that are set, as well as we really need like a lot of rapid iteration. Like for us to be able to predict out 5 to 10 years would be awesome. It'd be beautiful to be able to do that. But in reality, I think the rapid iteration is more and faster feedback loops. And I think that that's like within the role of EigenLayer is it reduces, it sort of raises the floor for this like infrastructure where teams like Hyperland, where you're getting like application specific interoperability is essentially like can be enabled. So I think that there's a combination of the two. It's not one size fits all. You kind of need both, and I'm interested to see where it goes from here.
Yeah. Building on that, I'd love to know like if there are any specific innovations within your ecosystem that have surprised you or stood out as game changers, let's say, or any upcoming projects that you think could redefine how blockchains interact.
I think EigenDA is a really good example of what can be done as an AVS. It's it's one thing to say, oh, this is a platform where you can potentially build these really, really valuable, scalable systems. And it's another thing to actually ship that thing. And they started working on EigenDA on day one or very early. When they started building the platform, they were building EigenDA in parallel. Now, if you look at EigenDA in production, it's an order of magnitude like more scalable than anything else that exists today in terms of the throughput. And if you kind of look at where we're going to be within 6 or 12 months, you kind of see that it is, in a lot of people's opinion, the like the best solution for data availability, especially for like high throughput applications. And it was built as an AVS. So I think that just seeing that not only can you build, I would say, the like highest quality, best infrastructure on the planet as an AVS, it actually exists today. So like it's not like a theoretical thing; it's actually there. And not only is it there, but it's an example of the potential of what you can build and how fast you can improve. So I think that has been kind of wild to see. I don't think people really kind of grok that at first until they kind of start diving in, and because people that don't really understand EigenLayer beyond the restaking don't really realize that it's the true purpose of it, the means to the end, is to be able to build the best and the like most secure blockchain infrastructure on the planet, and it's already kind of happening. So that to me, that was when I started kind of realizing where EigenDA is and how every single system, every oracle, every storage network, everything can be rebuilt but better. It really kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is definitely echoed what you just described too, is the speed at which people can work with like the original POC of EigenDA being created in like a couple like months, not years, which didn't have to like build these sort of like peer-to-peer like the consensus layers like again, right? You get the baseline infrastructure for decentralized networks out of the box. So that's something that like just rapidly allows for innovation as a whole. And I guess particularly on the EigenDA front, there's this like tough problem for data availability. Like the data availability like problem is you want to store data, right? But you sort of have like the size of the data and the way that it's often been like stored in a lot of like blockchain networks is essentially you store like replicate the data and store it across the network. So instead of just storing the size of the data itself, you store like the size of the data times the size of the network, right? So it kind of bloats and puts additional like cost to the network to be able to store it. And instead, you want to get it closer to just storing the size of the data itself. And all that really like means or is useful for, and like what that is useful for, is you need a place to be able to publish data so it can be made verifiable, right? That you can ensure the state of the network is correct, any of these services or applications that you want in like a decentralized and like secure way. But if we want like blockchains to scale, we require a scalable like data availability layer. And EigenDA right now is able to handle all of the blockchains like data that exists today. And if you saw the recent EigenDA.WTF, it showed that, right? You can run like the DA required for something like Solana on EigenDA today. And I just expect that generally in order to have more crypto applications, we need like a highly scalable DA layer, and you need those things to be verifiable. So it's like a prerequisite for that. So I think that's something that generally can then be reflected to other like infrastructure and AVSs, like these oracles, these different like DeFi primitives, or also a big fan of like web proofs as a whole. And I think unlocking Web2 data and making that verifiable so you can start to bootstrap and solve the cold start problem. I think EigenDA is a great case study to be able to show how the baseline is raised and how you can then create other services that can make a real impact across the board.
Great. I think that's very interesting. And you kind of already, both of you answered my final question regarding the long-term impact of EigenLayer in the blockchain system. And I would say not just EigenLayer, but EigenLabs as a whole with EigenDA as well. So I'm going to change a little bit my final question and make it a bit more personal. Between EigenLayer and your personal projects as well, is there a specific legacy or change in the industry that you'd like to see your work contribute to in the next months or next years?
I just want to show appreciation for all of the people building in the wallet and identity space. There's been a lot of really amazing things that have happened with Capsule, Privy Wallet, Dynamic. I think these are going to be the products that kind of make the most difference. And if you haven't really seen some of these, what I would call like next generation identity solutions for wallets, then you should definitely check them out.
Yeah, probably on like a related line, I think like web proofs are really interesting. Like people don't really think of like, I think like cryptography has like really advanced as a whole, where now you don't have to be a cryptographer, but you can get the benefits of programmable cryptography within your applications. So I am really interested to see more apps as a whole. We've spent a lot of time talking about infrastructure, and infrastructure is great, but realistically, like, hopefully you don't have to care about it unless it doesn't work, right? It should be better than the current options and should raise the floor, but really what should be built on top of infrastructure is like these services or applications. So I'm really interested to see this sort of rapid iteration, and particularly I'm interested to see like what applications people build when you have access to like Web2 data. And that's been a really hard cold start problem, and we're starting to see it as a whole. Like even something with like tomorrow.news, where you're predicting tomorrow's news essentially, and trying to find a way that how can you like bring this existing data and make it like sort of verifiable. I think we're just going to see a massive design space there where it's not at the forefront that it's a quote unquote crypto app. It's just an app and it works better and is better than like an alternative. So I'm excited for the whole like web proof space as a whole.
That's a wrap for the first episode of Probably Something. A huge thank you to our guests, Nader Dabit and Matt Murray, for joining us and sharing their insights. It was great having you both on the show. And of course, I think a big thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in, right? And don't forget that we're giving a proof of participation NFT to commemorate the episode. So make sure to claim yours and show off that you were part of the conversation. And of course, you can find the NFT on the chat of this space, but it will also be linked in our latest tweet and Discord server. So before we go, any last final words, guys?
No, that's it for me. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This was great.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a huge shout out to both of you guys for doing the work that is needed in space. So thank you not just for coming to this episode and to many other X spaces that you join, but also for getting your hands dirty, speaking to a lot of projects. For example, I know that you and I, Nader, we already had a few conversations over this. So just wanted to say thank you for being such an inspiration and for leading the way on what's the future of blockchain technology.
Yeah, I make Mario my words as well. Thank you guys both for your work and of course for joining us today. Sorry for all the troubles we've had throughout the show, but I think it was a really good talk. And yeah, we're excited to see the next developments that will come in. So thank you once again. Thank you to everybody that tuned in, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Take care.